Well, hello again. Welcome back. We've got another one of those stories. A customer brought in this vintage S.S.Stewart Arch-top. It was basically built by Vega years ago, so it's actually would be worth a little bit of money. It's had some poor repair work done over the years, but the top is solid, so we're not going to worry about that. It's had the binding replaced. It has a lot of loose inlays. The frets are worn down really badly. It's almost unplayable. But the big thing here is it has about a 32 thousandths bow in the neck. We don't have a truss rod, so we're going to have to treat this guitar like a vintage Martin. It's going to be a challenge. When he called me up, he asked me, he says, well, you know, I've got something here of sentimental value. He knew that I always appreciate that. And he's very good at bringing me challenges anyway, so we're going to see how this turns out. I'm going to see what I can do for him. So I'm going to de-string this thing, get the pick guard off of it, start pulling frets. Then we have to fix the inlays, reglue some binding before we can even start on the neck and the fretwork. Well, we have our frets out. Something I've noticed here, checking, we still have the 32 thousandths bow in the neck, whether we have the strings on it or off, and with the frets out. So that means our neck is very sturdy, it's just bowed. We've pulled this one inlay, and these are not pearl inlays, they're actually celluloid inlays. So I'm going to be pulling the loose ones, probably all of them it looks like. Cleaning the crud out of here, where over the years it's actually seeped in. Cleaning up the backs of the inlays and epoxying them all back in. We don't want to super glue these or anything. We need to use something that is very mild to this. We don't want anything disrupting the celluloid. So let's move on. Okay, well, here's a new wrinkle. Our inlays are not one piece. I don't know if you can pick this up or not, but the pearl is a thin layer on top, less than half the thickness of the inlay. So probably what our new plan here should be is to pull these inlays, fix the binding, and level the fingerboard up before we put the inlays back in. Then try to level the inlays into the fingerboard so we do not have to sand any more off the top of the inlays than necessary, just to avoid the risk of getting through this pearl into the white, especially on the ones that's curled up. Okay, well, just what we need, another challenge. Okay, here we go. Okay, wow, here's something. This inlay was glued up to here. It was never seated here. It was quite a little bump of glue here, so it was never seated down flush here. We're going to find lots of surprises here. We're back in the shop. It's the next morning. It's a very chilly West Virginia morning, but it's hard to start a day off bad when you're starting with Brazilian rosewood. So our plan's coming together here. I thinned and fitted this inlay before I glued it in last night. And this morning I come in and cleaned the epoxy and stuff off of it. It's doing really well. I had to do very little sanding on the inlay at all. In fact, I took more epoxy off the top of the inlay than I did the inlay itself. So you can see I'm actually spending a lot of time on these to taper the edges to make sure the edges go down to match the radius of the fingerboard. Spending some time on it, but it's working out. So let's move on. We got a lot to do. We have all of our inlays in and leveled up. All that has gone real well. All we have to do is clean the fret slots out, make sure they're the proper depth, chamfer the tops of them, and we're going to be ready to start putting frets in. I do need at this point to string this guitar back up and check the neck deflection on it. But other than that, we're all set to go. All of the fret slots have been resawn proper depth and cleaned out. I saw them with this little saw that I've put together out of a X-Acto saw. The quick grip clamp here supports the binding on each side, and you just saw down through between and clean it up. Of course, clean it up there, X-Acto, and chamfer it with a pippin file. So what I need to do now is measure the width of the slot, choose the C.P.R fret wire that I'm going to use. We are doing a vintage style compression refret. When I measured this again a while ago, we still have the 32 thousandths bow in the neck. I'm going to shoot for taking all that out except 4 thousandths with the compression refret. What we're going to be doing is using different sized tang of C.P.R fret wire, just like they used to do in vintage Martins, to recompress the neck back during the refret. So away we go. Well, we have most of our refret on the way here. We've got a little bit more to do, but I've already strung this guitar to check our progress. The bow that we had that was 32 thousandths before is now just about 10. So we're going to finish up there and see how it goes. We have settled on using the .0245 thickness tang to compress this with. So let's see how it moves on here. So we're strung back up here, checking things out. We'll leave these frets until later. That's going to be a whole different story. We don't need the compression here, so I got to figure out what size fret wire I want to use there. That's wide enough to hold the fret in well, but not need to be hammered in so much back here over this area. So back up here, I love it when a plan comes together. It worked out that I was shooting for 4 thousandths relief in this neck when I was finished. The best I could get was 7, so that's not too bad. With a little creative fret dressing, I can get this exactly where I want it. I was actually playing this a few minutes ago just to check it out. I had to be careful because the fret ends are still very sharp. But there's not a buzz on this guitar at this point, even without the fret dress. So this is going to play really well when we get finished up here. The action's a lot lower on it at this point, and I've not done a whole lot other than just do the fret work. So I'm going to set this aside and let it settle for a while. I'm really kind of tired of cutting and fitting frets for the time being, so I'll get back to this later this afternoon. Well, all of the frets are in. All we have to do now is do our fret dress. I actually ended up using the 20 thousandths wide tang on the last few frets up here. The little towels are stuffed in F holes to keep the noise down while you're tapping these frets in. So let's get to filing. Fret dress is finished. So still have to clamp the fingerboard, get ready to glue the nut back on here to get it recut. We're going to be able to use his original nut. He was kind of hoping we could. We're trying to keep as much original stuff here as we can. As I remember, I think he said this had been his grandfather's guitar. But anyway, so like I say, fret work is done. We're going to start moving along here, get things finished up. We've got to, like I say, still do the nut, clamp the fingerboard, clamp the guitar, do some more fitting. Got some tuners that I need to tighten up here. We've got some wobbly stuff going on here that I can't let go out of here that way. Anyway, yeah, there's some blood shed today. Anyway, so there's the time for the fret dress. So, moving on. Okay, wow. That's about 8 hours worth. We're all finished up though. We have done our refret, which got us about a 10,000ths relief in the neck, which I wanted a little bit less than that, but I'm going to take what I can get. This was a rough one. This neck is a huge hunk of yellow poplar. Quite a bit more mass than most Martin necks I've ever run into, and who knows what's underneath this fingerboard for a supporting bar. Plus, the size of these inlays that had been cut out of the fingerboard probably reduced the strength of it quite a bit too, so the compression didn't go quite as well as I'm used to. But anyway, it worked out. I'm not going to split hairs over a few thousandths of an inch. The guitar is very playable. In fact, the action came out great on it. We were able to salvage his original nut, which he wanted to do. We tightened up the tuners and cleaned them up a little bit. They had a few stripped screws in them. Got a beautiful Brazilian rosewood fingerboard. Like I say, the hassle of working on something like this, usually the payoff is, getting to work with something like this you don't get to very often. I mean, come on guys, this guitar is 82 years old. So anyway, reslotted his bridge because it had sunk a little bit over the years to match the radius to get it to work right. Like I say, everything on this guitar at this point is pretty much original except for the frets, the binding that had been replaced previously, and the strings. So again, not bad. Nice little piece of history here. And it's also a family heirloom. I would have cleaned it up a little bit more, like I usually do, but the finish has got a lot of issues. There's a lot of finish missing, a lot of exposed wood here and there. There's lots of places where glue has dripped over the edge of the body where somebody re-glued the binding years ago. So we're going to leave the patina. That's going to be my excuse for this time. Basically, I could clean this up, but that would probably just get me in trouble in more ways than one. I'd probably start peeling stuff off, and then we'd also have finish issues where the cleaners and polishes would be ground into the wood grain then. So we're going to leave that alone. So what we're going to do is be thankful that we have a very nice playable 39 S.S.Stewart here, and that can be returned to the owner in very playable condition. So until next time, play nice. I'll see you later.